Hello? Hello? Hey. You hear me?
Hello?
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Is it me you're looking for?
Ha ha ha
Yes.
ha ha.
Lord. Um, yeah. So it's another live. We're starting up in 2 minutes. Same.
That's long.
Every day.
I didn't
This
click
is
anything,
all
that's
I
just long.
do.
It's only
Every
long.
single day. All I do is this.
Okay. Tell me if anyone comes in. Oh, can you hear me? You can probably hear me chewing gum.
Yeah, yeah. Hmm.
I'm trying to live.
Yeah.
It ain't working. I hear you
Let's
tip a
get
tap a tap.
things. Yeah, I'm just making sure that we have awareness.
Yippity tippity tappity tap. Tippity tappity tap. Oh, Britta. Oh my god, my window. Can you hear that?
I can hear the room. Yeah.
Okay, hold on. I gotta go close my window. I forgot.
So, here we are, hanging out another night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm probably gonna might take this into the editor and cut this part out.
Oh yeah, yeah. This is just like us waiting for some people, so it's fine. You know, just waiting to see what's up.
So how'd your story turn out? Good?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. The story's good. Story's fun. You
Good,
know,
good, good.
it's a little bit different. Not really. No. I mean, it's not super happy. It's not sad. It's not anything like that. It actually has like only a fun vibe to it. Fun vibe. That's all we do here. We just have fun vibes.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh look, Brain joined.
Hi. Hi. How's it going? I'm dying.
Hi, dying.
You'll hear dying noises as yeah.
Like
As-
that.
yeah, like that. As the time goes on. We've
Yeah.
decided to read our own stories this week because I feel like reading a different story with my voice this way. Oh, also, I forgot to mention, if I start dying, I gotta send you it in a sec. I'll send you the link in a second. If I start
Yeah.
dying halfway through, you want to just take
Yeah.
over?
Yeah, I'll just take over and just be like, okay, so where did we leave off? Dead Mash.
Yeah. So I'll send you the link in a bit, and then just follow along. And when I die, you just swoop in and save the ass.
As I do every single day.
Yeah.
Ah,
Yeah.
eh, eh.
Never get tired of being saved.
Yeah, touched by an angel.
Yeah, like that. Yeah, like that.
Water is delicious. So good.
Stop listening. Oh my god.
Okay, so it is like a little bit after 8. So, you know,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Okay, well, I know there are listeners that are not using the Podbean app right now. They are just listening in through the website. So, hello to everybody.
Wow, I
If
don't
you do end
know.
up getting a chance one day, download the app just so you can communicate with us directly. Um, or just head up to the website, fabulousduo.podbeam.com, and you can send us like emails and stuff using the contact form on like the page. So you can do that. Yeah.
Yeah. So, what happened last week?
Last week, don't you get me started on what happened last week. It was definitely a week.
I forget our prompts that happened last week. It was
So mine was that people were the no, you're people.
there's so many that
What
we
was
did.
it?
Hold on. What was it? It was the
Yeah.
gatekeeper and the island?
Yep.
No, it was the
Yep. Yep.
no, it was the
That wasn't. It was
it was
Discord and Colors of Joy.
yeah,
Yeah.
the one where the kid colored and the one where we killed all of humanity, me and you
We seem to do
specifically.
that. We always seem to do that. Like
Kill
every
all of humanity.
day. Yeah, I don't know what it is with us, but humanity just doesn't have a fighting chance against us. You know what I mean?
Well, that's
Humanity out here really trying, and we're just like, nah.
that's not what happened in the story, but yeah.
We can't give them spoilers. They gotta go back and listen in case they haven't listened to it already.
That's true.
Yeah. All you have to know about my story is that colors and painting.
I really liked your
That's
story
all.
last week. It was adorable.
It was. It was so adorable. And anybody
Yes.
who's gonna go listen to it expecting an adorable time, be surprised.
The main character, I think he's my favorite main character so far that you
Because
wrote.
he's just so innocently sweet.
He's adorable.
He's just a
He's
baby.
a baby.
So, just to refresh everybody on what we have this week, Michelle gave me a prompt where a 9 to 5 office worker gets bitten and has to cope with turning into a vampire. Do you want to share the one that I gave you just as a little.
Yeah, I'm gonna read it. It says, I'm gonna read it.
Yeah.
Person keeps changing into random animal forms until they find the right one for them. That's what my prompt was for this week.
Yeah.
And I did a
So,
bang up job,
yeah.
if I do say so myself, even though I
Bang,
was half
bang.
conscious the whole time.
Yay, conches.
Conscious.
I
But
was looking at like scallops and stuff earlier, so I'm like, conch.
I don't. Can you eat those?
You can now, all right?
Yeah, you
Um,
can. Yeah. So mine is I to be honest, I took the prompt and I just like was like, okay, maybe. So it's not
I took the prompt and then didn't do the prompt. LOL.
I keep being like, let me like twist it in a way that I want to do it. And I'm like, oh fuck, I forgot to do this. But it's fine.
Oh, jeez. That's okay. That's okay.
I mean, it's
It's
still
not.
it's still within the rules. That's all I gotta say.
Still within the rules.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, so like, am I?
Oh
Shall I
God,
go
yeah,
first?
yes. So you're gonna read your story, and I'm gonna read my story.
Yeah. This is just a temporary thing for the week, just because in case she's dying, it'll be hard to read a brand new story
Yeah, I
and
practiced
then
mine
not
with my
like
sick. I have
exactly reading
I've
mine
marked
over. It's
off.
going to be like,
I've highlighted where to cough.
yeah,
So it's
exactly.
it's
Like,
this.
stop here to die a moment.
Yes,
Proceed.
like that. You proceed.
After 7 coughs, proceed.
Yeah, like that.
Yeah.
All right, you want to start?
All right. So this story is called Night Shift.
Ugh, why did I go to that stupid party? I feel terrible. He slurred his words as he flopped out of bed. Jake had never been the partying type due to his paranoia that something bad always happens at parties. If it's not someone getting too wasted and causing a scene, it's the police showing up in because something. Or even if it's just him drinking a tad too much and making a fool of himself. Ugh, everything hurts. What even happened last night? He was rubbing his shoulders and neck as he wobbled to the washroom. His hands reached for the light switch, followed by him grabbing his toothbrush and starting to brush his teeth. As he looked up while brushing his teeth, he saw the strangest thing on his neck. Two small markings that looked like puncture wounds, which had healed. Given the fact that it was overnight and the wounds left a mark like this, there was no way that something like this could have healed so quickly. He got dressed and grabbed his scarf before heading out to his car. This morning, he didn't seem to have much of an appetite, so he was going to get into the office a bit earlier. As he got into the car and began driving, the sun had started to rise, and the sky was an array of beautiful colors. As Jake was enjoying the colors dancing around in the sky, the sun had started to feel extremely bright, almost painfully bright. The heat on his skin felt so hot, but his car's thermometer had shown it was only 10 degrees Celsius outside. The light felt so uncomfortable, he began to speed up just to get to the office a bit faster, to get inside and avoid the harsh sun. Parking under the shade of a tree near the entrance, Jake sprinted for the door. Relieved to be inside, away from the light, he went to the washroom to pat himself down with a bit of cold water. Turning on the tap and getting a nice handful of cold water, he gently splashed onto his skin, then looked up, seeing his reflection was very red. The cold water felt soothing, but the whole situation was really bizarre. Grabbing a paper towel, he began to dry off his hands and face before heading to his desk. As he was working away sorting through papers and typing up reports, one of his coworkers had popped into his office. She was new and very youthful, always trying to get the office to spice up the workplace and be more fun. It was actually her that invited everyone in the office to the party the night prior. Hey, Jake. Everyone loved you at the party last night. You totally have to come again tonight, she said enthusiastically. I don't think so. I didn't expect to drink that much last night, especially on a work night. A lot of the night, it was a complete blur to me. I don't even remember getting home. He started shaking his head while looking down, as if he was disappointed in himself. She put her hand on his shoulder and tried to convince him further. Look, tonight is going to be a lot less people. It's really just a private soiree that Marie wanted to host. She loved having you there, and you really can't say no to someone of her stature. She continued to insist that he joined her tonight. Please, Jake, I promise I won't ask you to come out to any more parties unless you want to. I just really want to get in Marie's good books. Why did I let her talk me into this? Jake sighed to himself, standing at the front door of Marie's estate once more for another night of partying. Taking in a deep breath, he raised his hand to knock on the door when it slowly creaked open. The mood today feels completely different than that of the party yesterday. For one, there weren't hundreds of people bustling about. In fact, it seemed oddly quiet. As he stepped in further, the door shut behind him, and the sound of heels clacking against the floor started to echo in the distance. From the top of the stairs, Marie stood there in a beautiful red dress that was adorned with sections of soft ruffles, not to make the dress look gaudy. Welcome back to my home, Jake. We've been waiting for your arrival. The words danced elegantly from her lips. Please, right this way. She stepped down the stairs slowly and gestured for him to follow into the next room over. As they opened the door to one of her ballrooms, everyone in the room hushed and looked towards them. Everybody, welcome back Jake. He accepted her invite and came out for a little night of self-indulgence. She gave him a mischievous grin and guided him into the room. Jake felt pretty odd being the only one here not dressed according to the occasion, as the best suit he owned was fairly worn out. After taking a drink, he started to warm up and talk to everyone. But for some reason, Marie kept hanging around him, making sure he was never out of her reach. A few drinks later, Jake had asked to excuse himself for a moment, and Marie showed him where the washrooms were. Stumbling slightly out of the washroom, not thinking he had drunk this much, he felt a cold touch across his neck, and the hand slid down his chest. Are you enjoying the party? Why do I get the feeling you don't really enjoy my company? Marie pouted while her fingers danced across his chin. Taken aback, Jake was fumbling on his words, trying to keep himself composed. No, I absolutely love your company. I'm just not one of you. I feel very out of place. She whispered into his ear. Oh? Do you want to be one of us? Jake took a large gulp and then nodded. If I was ever so lucky to be, of course I would. The moment he said that, he felt a warmth across his neck, but it wasn't skin. His vision began to blur, and he passed out. Grumbling, Jake had awoken from his slumber, but everything felt weird. It was almost like he was covered in a heavy, grainy, mushy texture. Upon opening his eyes, he couldn't see anything but darkness, but from the strong scent alone, he realized that this was dirt. Clawing his way through, trying to get to the surface, he felt like he was panicking. But his heart wasn't racing at all. Finally, he felt his hands break through and he pulled himself up, gasping for air, only to come to another realization that he didn't actually need the air. He looked around, noticing that he was still at Marie's, just somewhere out back. Stumbling towards the home, he could smell such sweet scents around him. It wasn't the flowers in the garden or the fresh dew on the grass. It was something stronger and more satiating. Stepping into the home, he saw Marie standing ahead as she turned to face him. Ah, you're awake. You must be hungry. She waved her hand to him, gesturing that he comes forward. His body almost moved on its own, steadily towards her without hesitation or resistance. As he entered the room, his coworker was there mingling with everyone. The alluring scent that satisfied him yet filled him with hunger had drifted off of her. Oh, you are hungry, aren't you? Go ahead, take a sip. She then beckoned to the young lady. Oh my goodness, Jake, you made it. But you're so pale. Are you feeling okay? His coworker had a look of concern in her eyes. Marie held her from behind and sunk her teeth into her neck, leaving 2 holes. Come, drink, she commanded Jake. He leaned in and put his lips on her neck. The taste of her blood was so sweet and rich. He couldn't help himself and kept his lips pressed against her, draining every last drop. Her body went cold and limp in his arms. A light tap on his shoulder. That's enough. You have a huge appetite, it seems. Marie smiled at him. With his stomach now full, his mind began to think clearly. Oh God, what have I done? What have you done? What is happening? He started to spiral, holding onto his head, collapsing to the floor. It felt like his emotions were intensified as all of his thoughts rang through his brain, echoing, calling him a murderer and a monster. Stand. Marie's voice pierced all the sounds in his brain, and he stood up. Listen. You asked to be like us, and you are. So take note of everything we teach you tonight. Jake spent the night there absorbing all of the information associated with his transition, as well as how to handle his thirst without causing a messy accident as he had just done. The night was nearing its end, and the morning had started. Jake called his workplace, letting them know that, due to medical reasons, he could no longer be a part of the day staff, and that he would need to do the night shift. You do a good bit of work, and you think you can just make your own hours now? You can come in tonight, but only tonight. I know you went to that party last night, so don't bullshit me with your excuses. His boss hissed at him through the phone. Hanging up and slightly annoyed with the response he received from his boss, especially with his enhanced sense of emotions, he laid in a room Marie had prepared for him, and he tried to calm himself. As night rolled around, Jake awoke and got ready for work. He explained to Marie what had happened, and that even after resting, his anger has not subsided, so he's worried about what he might do when he sees his boss. She sat him down and talked him through a special trick that only their kind could do, but usually it is not taught so early as it can be overwhelming with the entire transition. After they were done with their lesson, Jake headed to the office and met with his boss. The anger on his boss's face seeing Jake walk in was immeasurable. See, you look just fine. Pretty damn chipper, even. What is this nonsense about medical issues and working at night? Jake's fist clenched slightly, and he could feel the skin in his palm tearing. He approached his boss and looked him in the eyes while concentrating. You will let me work any shift I ask for without question, and you will stop being such an asshole to everyone. His boss stared blankly at him, then began to nod and repeated what he said before walking away. Jake had a smirk on his face while heading back to his desk. Huh. So this might not be as bad as it seemed at first. I could get used to this.
Yeah. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. That was good. I liked it.
Right? Because it's like, he's there doing like his office job stuff, and then he learned the power of compulsion. The thing is, I realized that it might sound as if he knew that they were vampires from the beginning,
Yeah.
but what he meant was rich.
Okay.
Because they were like, that's why I tried to make a point of it being that his clothing is all worn, right? While all of theirs looks so good and stuff,
Yeah.
And she lives on this huge estate in this mansion, right? So it's like, oh yeah, I'd love to be one of you rich people.
Yeah.
And she took that as consent into turning him into a vampire. Because
It's kind of
like
yeah.
vampires tend to be very like, tricky like that.
It's kind of a funny way to become a vampire.
Right?
That's funny.
So
Yeah. No, I thought it was really cool. Did you take a lot of inspiration from your vampire sessions?
no. If I did, it would be a 2-year long story that I'd be writing. But
Inspiration, not completely
I
copied.
know. It'd be a 2 year story.
Okay.
Inspire.
Hold on.
So yeah, what do you like? What did you like the most about that? Like, what part was your favorite?
Um, I just liked Marie. Like, I thought she was really cool.
Yeah, every vampire queen is, they always
Yeah,
just
she
come
was.
out and they're super like, yep, that's right. Look here, you. I'm just wondering what's gonna happen to the coworker that's like dead now. What do they do with her? Who knows? Marie got it.
Let's just, yeah, Marie's just gonna bake a pie.
Ugh.
She's
Send it back
gonna,
to the office and it's like, here's your coworker.
yeah, she's gonna Todd Sweeney Todd, you know,
Yeah, Sweeney.
Sweeney, Sweeney Todd.
Yes.
Yes.
Mm, yes. I would too, to be honest. I mean, come on.
Okay, so what was your favorite part about writing it?
My favorite part was just how he was always confused. Because, like, he wakes up like, oh, what is this? He goes to the party, oh, what is this? He gets, like, to the office, oh, come on, what is this? Yeah, that's just all
Everything.
he
He's like,
does.
what's going on?
Right? The immeasurable confusion. I like
Immeasurable.
it. Yeah, he just always seemed to be having fun being confused.
Yeah.
Uh, And I'm good with that.
Well, that's good.
Alright. So, how are you feeling with your story? Everything is like magical and like whimsical and like super, super turning into animals sounds really fun.
Magical and whimsical. Good thing I
Yeah.
didn't send you the link earlier.
Uh-oh.
The title, like, if you can see the, I don't
Oh
know if
no.
people can see the title of the. People
Ah.
can see the title of the live. Oh no!
Oh no. This is the part where she had highlighted saying cough now.
Oh god, too much laughter, too much happiness, and the COVID.
Yes.
The COVID doesn't like that.
No, it never does.
But yeah, so the title, title is,
Uh-huh.
yeah, it's not what you would, I guess, expect from the prompt, which is how I like to be, how I like to go.
How I like to live, yeah.
This is how it is. Okay, I don't know if I have any like disclaimers for this other than don't
This
get sad.
yeah, don't get sad, but this might be Michelle's last final words.
Yeah, this one I took a lot of inspiration from my own currently fading life. um yeah, so here it goes. It's called Final Words Word. Oh my god, get this out of my eyes. It's called Final Word, and I'm just gonna say the prompt again. It was: person keeps changing into random animal forms until they find the right one for them. And I'm gonna reiterate, I didn't exactly write that. So anyway. Oh, and Kristen, you'll take over once I start dying, yes? Yes, like I'm gonna count on
We'll
you.
see. We'll see.
Okay. Final words. Are you looking up or down on us who fight? Us who don't have the right to shield our eyes from the sight of a battlefield that keeps us up at night. Us who you've turned into frightful things, taken away our flight, and in turn only taught us how to bite. What was that? A voice asked next to my ear. I turned to see one of the other soldiers I had been getting close with. I guess you could call him a friend. What the hell was that? Anyway, I guess you could call him a friend. A poem, I answered. What's a poem? He asked. We both stared at each other with a mirrored look of confusion on our faces. Then it hit me. Oh, you've been in the army all your life, haven't you? I asked. He nodded. I guess they don't teach things like poems in the arts here. He shrugged and moved closer, looking at the words I scribbled out on the scrap piece of paper in my hand. What's it for? He asked. I smiled, glad that the time in the army hadn't dulled his sense of curiosity, one of my favorite characteristics of people. Also, that was a very good question. I had always written poems even before I was drafted into the army, and never once thought about why I do or if they serve any purpose. Which was ironic, considering that the art of poem writing was all about understanding and empathy. Of course, that's debatable. I thought for a while longer before I simply said, "It's a way to express oneself." He scrunched up his nose. "Why would you need to express yourself?" he asked. "Well," I began, again taking my time to think of an answer to what, on the surface, seemed like a simple question. "Sometimes, some people have too many thoughts and feelings inside their heads, and they need a way to get them out of their heads, or it'll plague them throughout the day." I could tell by the look on his face that he was still confused, but before he could ask another question, the sound of a siren filled the hangar, and the lights went out, save for a spinning red light on the wall on the inside of the plane. That was a burp. Anyway, I could see the frown on his face amidst the rushing of the other soldiers and the spinning red light. I hadn't been a soldier for very long, but I already knew better than to get attached to anyone. Even so, being empathetic and having walls up to keep people at a distance didn't mix well. "Here." I put the piece of paper in his hand. "You can have it," I said, tucking my pen away in my jacket pocket. Both he and I returned from multiple skirmishes already, alive and well enough, so I couldn't help but have a soft spot for him. "But this is your expression of yourself," he said, with knitted eyebrows. It was something of a ridiculous scene. The squad was getting ready for an airdrop into a live battlefield. The siren was blaring and the lights were flashing, but still he was more concerned about an unfinished poem I had scribbled down in my boredom. "And I can't read anyway. You keep it with you," he insisted, trying to hand it back to me. "I write a bunch of those a day. Throw it out if you don't want it," I said, dismissing him. I started to get into place to wait for the airdrop when I heard him call out to me again. "If we both make it back, read this to me again, okay?" And he darted over to his side of the hangar to get ready for the drop. That took me by surprise. Never mind that a request like that might get him made fun of by the other soldiers, but to think that someone with his background would ever concern himself with something like a poem was astonishing to me. He was an altered soldier. This meant that he had the ability to morph into different animals at will, well past puberty. It was normal for kids to be able to control what animal they morphed into until about age 11. Then they would lose control of that and start to morph randomly for about a year. Usually by age 13, children were able to narrow down their repertoire of morphable animals until finally, around age 20, they're able to choose one morphable animal for themselves, losing the ability to morph into anything else. There were many theories for why humans had this gift. Some people thought that we were able to morph into the forms of our past lives. Others thought that we were all born with a spirit animal companion that lent us its form. Others thought that it was a result of alien DNA splicing and years of evolution that gave us this ability. In the end, there was no specific or spiritual explanation for why we were able to morph into different animal species. And so, what did we decide to do with the gift? Kill each other with it. Scientists could never figure out why or how we were able to morph, but they did figure out how to distort the natural process to make better fighting weapons. That was what he was. Taken in by the army right before puberty and experimented on until they cracked the code, then raised him into a killing machine without any concern of how this alteration would affect him in the future. Didn't even teach him how to read. In the middle of my thoughts, the floor dropped from beneath my feet, and I was free falling in the clouds. The other soldiers began morphing into all kinds of giant aviator predators. Falcons, eagles, vultures, and many others. It was always such a sight to see a flock of random birds appear just above me. I continued to fall, letting myself fall as close to the ground as possible before I decided to morph. I closed my eyes, listening to the sound of air whizzing around my ears. my jacket flapping in the wind. Then I took a deep breath and morphed into my owl, spreading my wings against the wind and steadying myself in the sky to begin surveying the battlefield. The soldiers above me would have to fight the flying enemies to defend the plain and skies from our troops below, while I would be providing support to the ground troops. We weren't giving any means of communication or even any orders. We were just supposed to fight. Any semblance of a plan that we had was made in the plain on the way here. It seemed the higher-ups were getting desperate, or maybe they just wanted to throw us away. It didn't matter anyway. All I was meant to do was fight, not think. The sun had already set, but the fighting continued. As I flew closer and closer to the ground, trying to get a count of the enemy's forces, I felt something tiny land on my feathered back. It was him. He had taken the form of a mouse and was communicating with me by tapping my beak, using Morse code to point out some human-shaped soldiers setting up some kind of heavy artillery cannons. They looked big enough to cross no man's land in a matter of seconds, completely wiping us out. It was insane to think that they were able to sneak that in without us knowing. Instinctively, I knew what he needed me to do. I pressed my wings to my side and began to nosedive right into the trenches. He carefully positioned himself on my tail feathers, and when we were close enough, I whipped my tail forward and hurled the tiny mouse into a pack of lions. In midair, he turned into a gorilla and plowed right into the cannon, completely scattering the formation of the enemy as the gorilla seemed to have come out of nowhere. He was a skilled fighter, but I began to worry as I saw the enemy regain their composure and began pushing him back. I gave him a hoot, signaling that it was time to leave. We had already taken out the cannon. There was no point in risking anything any further. Taking cover behind a piece of metal debris, he quickly morphed back into a mouse, and I grabbed him before any other predator could. As soon as I was high enough, he jumped off my back and morphed into a condor, flying beside me. I was so impressed with that maneuver that I let out a cheerful little hoot, but the celebratory hoot was short-lived, as we noticed that there was a flock of birds chasing us from down below. I'm not muted, right? Okay. Luckily, it seemed like they didn't have too many nocturnal birds, so it should have been a clean getaway. All he had to do was turn into a mouse and sit back and enjoy the ride. Of all the owls in the army, I had the best instincts. I was the fastest, I had the best night vision, and I was perfectly in sync with my owl form. He knew this too. We had been in situations like this before, but for some reason, he didn't seem to be thinking the same thing I was. He remained a condor and followed me into the trees, getting ready to evade them. The condor was not a bird that could maneuver through the trees quick enough to get away from the flock behind us. What was he doing? We entered the tree line, and I was making sure that we were going through spaces that were big enough for a condor and easy to see, but that would mean that the others behind us would be able to follow easily as well. I looked back and saw that he was now a duck, not the best for evading the predators behind us. I was beginning to wonder if I was going to be able to read that poem again for him at all, when all of a sudden I heard something crash through the trees behind us. Another flock of birds had intercepted the one that was pursuing us, and we were able to stop, finally. Landing on the ground, I tried to get my bearings, looking all around me for him in the form of a duck or something. Instead, I saw him in human form. I turned into my human form, making sure that the flock of birds had been driven away. I rushed to him, picking him up in my arms. "What's happening?" I asked frantically. His breathing was heavy and slow. "I don't know. I wasn't able to control my morphing," he said through labored breaths. "Can you read that poem for me again?" I didn't like how this was sounding. This was why I should never had gotten attached. But I took a breath and started to recite the unfinished poem. "Are you looking up or down on us who fight? Us who don't have the right to shield our eyes from the sight of a battlefield that keeps us up at night? Us who you've turned into frightful things, taken away our flight, and in turn only taught us how to bite." I could feel his heartbeat slowing by the time I was done reciting the poem, and I immediately began to panic. "We need to get you to a doctor," I yelled. He held his hand up and started to speak. "Us who wanted to do good but lost our minds at the height of spite. What happened to our humanity? The poem? What are you saying? I could see his eyes grow dim, and I began to lift his body to carry him to help. Was this from the effects of the alteration? He continued to recite he continued to recite the other half of the poem. Ah, yes. We threw that away along with our sanity, so that we could fight for those who don't need to cloud their sight with what they themselves had us to do. Well, well, ah, yes, we threw that away along with our sanity, so that we could fight for those who don't need to cloud their sight with what they themselves had us do. But then that's an excuse too, isn't it? Drown out all the cries and screams asking why. Keep pushing forward, you'll be a hero. Stop asking questions, it's all for the sake of the Bureau. That's what they always say. But for us who have nothing left, who suffered through every kind of theft, will never wake, still can't sleep, and will be replaced again to keep the cycle on repeat. And with that, his heart stopped. The end.
What a good dead man. That's interesting. How it's like, you know, why did he suddenly know poetry?
Right? Oh god, hold on, I'm coughing. So like,
Yeah.
yeah, I was like, well, since I'm dying, my
Right?
character will be dying as well.
As and like naturally. But yeah, no, like it was really good and it was really fun because like, you know, they could turn into these animals and these birds and all that sort of stuff and like he used it in a way for like war. And of course, because that's what humanity does with everything. There was like, oh, what's this beautiful thing that we have? Another way to kill people? Sure. Like they don't look at it in a way that's just like this is a gift that we can use for numerous amounts of things like foraging for food or helping someone who's in trouble or something like that or whatever. No, it's just how can we collectively be the worst things to exist on the planet?
Yeah, and like, I was trying to, yeah, basically exactly what you said. I was trying to do
Mhm.
that. So like the idea, I don't know how clear it was, but well, I'm pretty sure it was clear. But like he's basically an experiment, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And
They Attack on Titan him.
what happened in Attack on Titan? Spoilers.
uh,
But
uh,
yeah, so yeah, like they already have the ability to like turn into animals and stuff like that.
yeah,
And the idea is that as they get older, they're able to like morph and like take one animal form and be like good.
yeah. But the experiment was to make them versatile and continue to shift.
Yeah, exactly. So the ability to shift
Yeah.
into whatever animal you wanted, obviously is really useful on the battlefield. And so the scientists, um, in my world, put research into like medical research into finding out how to make people remain in that state of being able to like change into whatever animals so that they can fight better.
Yeah.
Um, but like, and I don't know if this was clear because I honestly I don't know if I wrote it right, but um, the idea is that there was a fairly new like technology that they like altering them like that was fairly new.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So no one at that point really knew what the long term effect would be on the soldier, and so we see here his
Exactly.
heart just kind of failed, and he died.
Yeah, because I mean, like a lot of the experiments, it's like, oh, it looks like it's working well. Looks like it's working well. They have perished. All right,
They have
less of
perished.
this, and maybe a little bit more MSG.
Yeah, and then like you can also see how he was an altered soldier and he was like super useful, but they didn't even teach him how to read. You know, they don't teach him like things that like normal people would learn in school because he's just supposed to be a soldier. So they're just like the government or whatever it is, the army is just like, you know what's not What you don't need is like, I don't know. To me, that like the arts
I
are
think
happiness. So.
reading makes sense if you're in the army because it's like, hey, what did that say? I don't know. Yeah, that
Yeah.
says explosive.
Yeah, reading makes sense when you're in the army, but when you're using weapons that are just your body, then what do you need
Hmm.
to read?
Well, it's the thing. Like, so everybody is like, the thing is that no civilization is the same. I don't imagine that like everybody in a world would just all use their animal forms. For example, if I had the ability to turn into a condor, I'd be a condor lifting a bunch of like gunpowder over and dropping it on you guys. You know, like I would be my own aerial bomber. Like it all depends on the
Like how
types
they use.
of, yeah, the warfare and the different like methods of warfare that they want to use in conjunction with their abilities that lets them shift, you know,
Well,
because
yeah, it
I
does.
don't think any civilization will just be like we all have to fight the exact same, everyone has a sword and a shield, that's it. But it's like no, then they invent like, you know, they have like spears because spears are good for range and you can do this, and they it's like, oh well, we need like a knife that can penetrate through armor, and then we need like arrows for range. So like, you know.
Yeah, like yeah, it depends on the fighting style, but I mean, like he wasn't like other soldiers either. Like so they just
Yeah.
didn't. Yeah, so he was, like in the sense of like, or I guess from the military standpoint, like from their logic, it's like, you know, I've already altered the DNA. All you need to know how to do is to like turn into different animals, and then like, you're always
Hmm.
on a squad, and then like at some point, it's almost like he's also disposable because like as it was stated in the story, they don't
Hmm.
even get like orders. They were just kind of flown in there and like dropped. It's kind of like we'll
Yeah,
fight.
it's like they were just basically like go do a thing, and if you make it back, you make it back.
Yeah, so like there wasn't really any goal for their team in particular. Like
Yeah.
it was kind of like, yeah, it was basically just go kill our enemies. It wasn't, you know, capture like the general or like take over their trenches. No, it would just kind of go. So for me, it was like when we're okay. I'm gonna be honest. A lot of a lot of the inspiration came from like what's happening in with the
The
place.
world's
Yeah, Russia and holy crap, what's the name of the place?
Ukraine.
Ukraine. Oh god, I'm sitting here not remembering my whole life. Anyway, I took some inspiration from there because there's a lot of confusion, at the very least. Well, there was at the beginning a lot of confusion within the troops, within the Russian troops being kind of just sent, not really knowing what they're doing or what they're, So in
Yeah.
that same vein, I have this group of soldiers who are morphable and whatever, just all still sent because when we're and like that poem too, like it was basically from the perspective of us, obviously the perspective of a soldier kind of talking to the higher ups, where it's kind of just like, we're taught how to fight, we you don't basically care about us, or like
Hmm.
all you want us for is just like bodies on the front line, which is what basically Russia did for a while too. They just sent waves and waves of bodies to, you know, fight
Overwhelm
in
and yeah,
confusion.
just do that.
So I don't know. To me, in times of war, it's like that's how it is. The higher ups just send waves and waves of people.
Hmm.
I didn't
Hmm.
want to get like that serious, but I feel so like shitty because of COVID, and I'm like dying. I'm like in a fever dream all week, and I'm like, the war in over there,
The war on that side.
over there.
I feel that. I feel that.
Yeah,
COVID does
and that
that.
came out, and then I wrote that poem. I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool. Oh God,
Oh.
yeah. What was your favorite?
I like that everyone just turns into birds because I love birds, and every time I see people transforming into birds, I'm like, yeah,
Yeah,
everybody get in your flocks.
yeah. So I mean, that was kind of like with the prompt. Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't mention the
Yeah.
random turning into thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like, if I die after this, because I'm probably gonna, those are my final words.
Those are. That's the end of me.
That's the end of me. That poem is my final words. That's it. It's good.
Symbolism.
Yeah.
Symbolism.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was like a fun story because, like, it did have a lot of like real life aspects and elements in it, as every good story should have, like some pieces of this and that and whatever, and play it in a way that's like, that. like
Mm-hmm.
like that.
Like the yes, it's
You like
this.
this, like this that you yeah, this that you've created. So with that in mind, what we got prompts for next week?
We do. Yes. My fridge is doing weird things. Do you hear it?
Yeah, it's talking to you.
It's weird as hell. Anyway, your prompt for next week is a world where people
Ah,
are the size of ants and ants are the size of people.
wow. I can definitely see a lot of things happening there. Yeah. Yeah. Um yep.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say for you that
Yeah.
your prompt is basically a person. It doesn't have to be you. It can be you just for the humor if you want. A person gets drunk and accidentally beats up a martial arts master. Now everybody wants this person to open up a dojo.
Oh,
Yeah.
getting drunk is my middle name.
They don't call me drunk mash for no reason.
Yeah, they call me up for a reason.
There's
There's definitely a reason.
definitely a reason. I don't know what it is, but it's a reason.
There's something.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So do with that what you will, and that's gonna be something.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
I expect yours to solve world hunger. No?
It will. It will. It only makes sense.
Of course. Wait a minute.
Yeah.
If ants are the size of people. No.
Hold on.
Wait a minute.
World hunger. We'll just eat the ants. Wait.
Ants are edible.
Yeah, but when they're the size of people and people are the size of ants, it's a lot less edible.
No, that sounds real edible. That
Yeah, like,
was
it's
real
just like, let
edible.
me eat that squashed. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, those were this week's stories, everybody. Pray that Michelle does not die. If she does, I will post on the website looking for a new co host, so feel free to apply.
And you got my final words, so consider that my will. There's nothing in there. Just consider it my will.
Exactly. There's nothing in there because I have nothing.
I have no things.
I have nothing. All right. Well, we hope to see you all next week. And don't forget to follow us on Podbean, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and Listen Notes.
Plenty of those things.
Yeah. All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye.